My name is Emily, and as a forensic student, I deal with death and facts every day. But when I moved into a cheap basement on the edge of the city, the facts started to defy logic. Every night, at exactly 2 a.m., someone knocked on my door, but the hallway remained silent as a grave. I am 21 years old, struggling to pay for my expensive medical textbooks. My logical mind believed it could handle anything. However, that cold winter night changed my perspective forever. My hands still shake slightly when I recall that rhythmic sound against the wood. Something was out there, and science had no immediate answer for it. Finding an affordable place in this expensive city felt like a miracle. I moved into a small basement owned by Mr. Abernathy, a quiet man who spent his days repairing old shoes. The rent was incredibly cheap, only 1/3 of the market price, which helped me focus on my forensic studies. Mr. Abernathy was kind and gentle, yet a constant shadow of worry clouded his face. He often looked at the walls as if he expected them to break. My neighbors, the Millers, were not as welcoming. Every time I walked past their house, they stared at me with cold, narrow eyes. They frequently stopped me on the sidewalk to complain about strange noises coming from my building. "You should leave while you can, Mrs. Miller whispered one afternoon, her voice sharp with fake concern. Their constant warnings started to feel like a heavy weight, making me question the silence of my new home. It happened on my 5th night, exactly at 2 a.m. Knock, knock, knock. A heavy, hollow thud echoed through the floor. I grabbed my flashlight and pulled the door open in seconds. The hallway was pitch black and empty. My heart raced, but I forced myself to be calm. I knelt down and scanned the floor with the bright beam. There were no footprints, yet I noticed something strange. A small smudge of wet mud sat on the carpet. It was out of place. It had not rained for days, so where did the moisture come from? The next morning, a sweet smell filled the air. Mr. Abernathy brought me a warm, homemade apple pie. "Did you sleep well, Emily?" he asked. His hands were shaking as he spoke. I mentioned the noise, but he quickly looked away. "Don't worry," he whispered. "This is a very old building. It often makes strange sounds." I watched him leave, thinking he was just afraid of losing his only tenant. Maybe the house was just settling. Perhaps I was overthinking a simple pipe noise. However, the knocking continued every single night. I decided to use my forensic skills to find the truth. One evening, I stayed inside and carefully sprinkled white forensic powder across the floor in front of my door. I did not open the door when the sound returned. When the sun rose, I checked the hallway. My breath caught in my throat. A chilling sight waited for me in the powder. It was a large shoe print, size 12. The marks led toward the back wall of the house, and then simply vanished. I spent the following afternoon at the city morgue for my internship. The cold, quiet room usually felt lonely, but that day, it helped me balance my mind. I focused on the tiny details of my work. If it doesn't have a heartbeat, it cannot hurt me, I told myself. This was a logical rule of forensic science. I felt stronger after a few hours of work. The busy laboratory gave me the courage I needed to face the mystery in my own basement. I finally decided to call the police. I needed professional help to catch this intruder. But when the police car pulled up to the house, the atmosphere changed instantly. Mr. Abernathy became extremely panicked. His face went pale, and he started shouting at the officers. "Go away! There is no problem here!" he cried, trying to push them back toward the street. I stood there, confused and worried. Why was he so terrified of the law? His reaction made me wonder if the danger was much closer than I thought. At the police station, the truth finally broke through the surface. Mr. Abernathy sat in a small room, his head in his hands. He admitted that he had not paid his property taxes for 3 long years. He was not a criminal. He was simply drowning in poverty. The poor man was terrified that a police investigation would lead the government to take his home away. He had nothing to do with the knocking. I watched his tired face, and a strange weight filled my heart. He was completely innocent. A young officer noticed my worried expression. He suspected the neighbors and decided to take action. He secretly installed hidden cameras disguised as light bulbs in the backyard and the basement hallway. I sat in my room that night, my chest feeling tight as I watched the monitor. I waited for hours, in total silence. Then, my blood ran cold. The camera did not see a ghost. It saw a man's head slowly emerging from the dark soil, like a ghost rising from a grave. The next night, I sat in the darkness, waiting. At exactly 2 a.m., the heavy knocks started. Knock, knock, knock. Suddenly, the silent backyard exploded with light and shouting. "Police! Don't move!" I ran to the window, my breath catching in my throat. Officers jumped from the shadows, surrounding a man near the bushes. It was Mr. Miller. He was caught red-handed, crawling out of a small tunnel hidden beneath the thick plants. I walked outside, my legs feeling heavy with adrenaline. I stood directly in front of him and clicked on my professional forensic flashlight. The bright beam cut through the dark, hitting his face and revealing his pale, trembling lips. I looked down at his boots, which were covered in dark, wet mud. "I found these exact soil particles on my carpet days ago," I said, my voice steady and cold. "The evidence doesn't lie, Mr. Miller." He stayed silent, his face pale and sweating under the light. I took a deep breath, feeling the cold night air fill my lungs. The mystery was over, but the reality of his greed was more frightening than any ghost. The truth was darker than I imagined. The Millers began digging that secret tunnel over a year ago. It started in their backyard shed and opened directly behind my basement wall. They used it to sneak into the house at night. They did not just knock. They damaged pipes and moved furniture to create a haunting atmosphere. Their plan was simple and cruel. Their goal was to frighten every tenant until the house was empty. They wanted everyone to believe the building was haunted. This way, they hoped to force Mr. Abernathy to sell his home for a very low price. They aimed to destroy a man's memories just to build a bigger garden. I stood in the hallway, looking at the narrow opening in the wall. The cold air from the tunnel touched my skin, making me shiver at their cold-blooded greed. They were willing to destroy a man's life just to build a bigger garden. Justice finally arrived for Mr. Abernathy. The Millers faced serious charges for illegal trespassing and harassment. A local veterans organization heard about the situation and helped the old man pay his back taxes. He no longer had to hide in fear from the law. One afternoon, Mr. Abernathy took my hand in his rough, leather-stained palms. His eyes were clear for the first time. "Weren't you ever afraid of the ghosts, Emily?" he asked softly. I smiled at him, feeling a warm sense of peace in my heart. "I only fear things that have DNA, Mr. Abernathy," I replied. We sat together in the quiet house, knowing that the only thing hiding in the shadows now was just the dust of the past. I decided to stay in that basement apartment after all. It feels different now, filled with light instead of suspicion. We installed a modern security system, and the secret tunnel is gone, filled with solid concrete forever. Mr. Abernathy and I became close friends, almost like family. He often teaches me about the art of shoemaking, and I help him navigate the digital world. The rhythmic, scary knocking at 2 a.m. is a distant memory. Now, the only sounds echoing through the halls are our voices and laughter during our regular weekend dinners together. The scariest monsters don't live under your bed or in the shadows. They often live right next door, hidden behind a friendly smile and a greedy heart. True horror is not a ghost from the past. It is the cold selfishness of people you see every day. Stay brave and seek the truth. In our daily lives, you might encounter situations that feel overwhelming or mysterious. Never let fear cloud your judgment when things do not make sense. Instead, look for the facts. This experience teaches you to rely on logic and seek hard evidence before jumping to conclusions. Protect your peace by staying observant of those around you. Remember that a ghost is often just a person with a hidden motive. Always balance your kindness with a healthy sense of caution. By staying grounded in facts, you can overcome the shadows and ensure that your home remains a true sanctuary for your heart. Have you ever dealt with a neighbor from hell or found something you simply could not explain? If you have a story to share, please comment "scary" below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to hear how Emily solves her next mysterious case. Stay safe.